Greetings on this day of the feast of St. Barnabas, who wasn't an apostle, but was the closest thing to an apostle in the early church, traveling with Saul, later Paul, and spreading the news of the gospel. We honor him today in his sacrifice as a martyr. I've been noticing in the readings lately, in today's reading from the gospel, and also reading from the gospel the other day, readings that tell us, and maybe I'm more conscious of this because of we haven't had the opportunity to gather to worship as a community lately, but I notice in these readings certain things being placed above worship. Our obligation to love God above everything else and love our neighbor as ourself is greater than any burnt offerings, it said the other day in the gospel. And today in the gospel, we're advised that if we need to be reconciled with anybody, then we should do that before we attend worship. So we see in these days, especially days when there is a lot of division and fighting and nasty commentary going around, that we need to be attentive to our obligation to love God, to love others, to be reconciled. And that should be at the forefront of our minds these days when we seek reconciliation with those who are oppressed, those who are discriminated against, especially in these days, the Black community. These things should be in the forefront of our mind. And we hope that one day we will not be seen as someone who was aggressive and nasty, even if it was for the sake of the faith. That will be described more like St. Barnabas is described in that first reading today. He was a good man, filled with the Holy Spirit and faith. May people remember us in that way in the future as well. That we're good people, filled with the Holy Spirit and faith. It's perhaps no greater compliment than that.